Fast am I, good afternoon. Welcome along to Manx Radio's Mannin Line for Thursday, February the 5th. Alex sitting in for Andy once again on an open line through till 1. Well, first of all, before we talk about what's getting your goat, please do take care if you're out and about. Strong winds once again today, as I mentioned in the weather forecast there. Coastal overtopping, and there's snow on higher ground as well. So please do take care. Any updates on any problems with travel, we'll bring it you live here on air. But what is getting your goat today? What topic would you like to talk about? 66 13 68 is the number to call. Or, of course, you can send me a text or a WhatsApp to 166 177. But it's always great to chat to people on the phones at first. There's a number of stories that are hitting the news, of course, about the Isle of Man resident waiting more than 4 years for treatment. Says she feels deeply distressed to leave her unresolved symptoms for such a prolonged period of time. Is this just another symptom of our creaking health service? And it could be possibly related to another story that's been in the headlines about inward migration. And we did have this story the other day regarding comments by Maria Brighton on migrant workers and immigration and the removal of safeguards, but also about the government's lack of investment in facilities to support a larger population, which, of course, includes our health service. So have you any thoughts on any of that? 66 13 68 is the number to call if you've got any thoughts on that. Let's have a look at some of your messages that have been coming in. Thank you very much to a message that's coming from Philip, and he's been on quite regularly talking about the steam packet on these WhatsApp messages. But he says, Alex, a few weeks ago, Andy was berating the airport. Isn't it about time that the inadequate steam packet was mentioned on your show? Its sailings this month have been abysmal. When will the owners, the Manx taxpayer, get a say in how it's run and by whom? I will play devil's advocate on that as normal. Once again, when you say inadequate, if you could define what you mean by inadequate. When Andy's been on challenging the airport operations, and a number of people have, it's normally to do with the airport operations. In terms of the weather, I'm not particularly sure what you want us to do on that one, Philip. It's the sea state out there at the moment. I can read you the shipping forecast is rough or very rough. Is it safe for a vessel to go out there at the moment? No, it's not. And the choice is made on safety. As a former employee of the steam packet many years ago, I'll tell you now, the captain's the one who stands there taking the lives and the risk of taking the ship out to sea, and on their head be it. So it's not the Manx taxpayer that decides whether a ship goes out and people's lives are at risk, depending on how rough the sea is. It's the master of the vessel. So there we go. And also, the owner, the shareholder of the steam packet is the Isle of Man Treasury. Okay, it's the taxpayer that's paid for that, but the shareholder is the Isle of Man Treasury, and the company is run by its board of directors, as per, the Isle of Man Companies Act. So if you want to have a word about that, well, get onto the Treasury, or maybe just get onto the steam packet. But in terms of why is there no sailing operating today, well, if you look around the Irish Sea, and if you can find me any other passenger services that are running in this weather, good luck to you. So let's have a look. John in Ramsey, who's sent this message twice a day, every day, for the last few days about how his 3 granddaughters have informed me the school is organising a trip to the UK to visit wind farms and associated energy infrastructure. How good is it that they're looking forward to the trip and happy government is taking positive steps for their future, says Big John in Ramsey. Which school are we talking about here, John, and where was the trip to see the wind farms? I'd be fascinated to hear about that. That would be good to know. Anyway, 66 13 68. Let's go to the line. Oh, he had a day off yesterday. I missed him. Julian, where were you yesterday?
Oh, well, I'm one of the characters, apparently, so I suppose I should say good day to Pearl in Darwin, I suppose.
Exactly. Not so much characters, but also stars of the show. One of the cast of characters, yes.
Well, I don't know about that. Just quickly, before I talk about dictatorships,
yep.
The steam packet slapping 3.3% on the shipping charges. I'd be reducing it by at least 50%. I don't quite understand why this is happening, because it's basically putting a noose around businesses in the name of improving the steam packet's balance sheet. And the steam packet is the primary shares for that is with the Treasury Minister. So I don't see how that's going to work out. And, if you think about Maria Brighton's report, which I'll be talking about next week, if you reduce shipping charges, allowed businesses to thrive, more people would come to the island, starting businesses, and you wouldn't have to rely on, well, according to her report, 6% background checks and also impossible calculations on annual incomes per immigrant and how that's going to be beneficial to the island, especially when they've got like lots of children and stuff that are going to require a lot of money from our tax for looking after them and stuff. So I don't know. I think the increase in the shipping charges of 3.3% is absolute madness. It's just going to tighten the noose on businesses.
Well, Julian, this is something I've had a debate with friends of mine who work in government, and it depends where they work and things like this. But there is two sides to the way that government seems to act, and a lot of the time it seems to fall on one side, which is that one, government is looking out for itself. So if my department can't make up this much money to pay its budgets, we will charge the user more, which is way that either that or we'll try and make savings by doing bulk orders, and that if that puts a business out of business on the Isle of Man or it costs it more money, so be it, but it makes the department's budget looks all right. Whereas the other side that some people in government look at is that, well, I'll tell you what, what's the benefit to the Manx economy by government doing this instead of just looking out for our own bottom line? And the problem is to which side that falls on and to which officer and which politician makes that decision, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, from a distance, it looks like being anti-capitalist. You're basically just shoving up the price on the shipping to benefit what is effectively a government arm, because it's a wholly owned company of the government, at the expense of all the businesses that need to be able to have, efficient shipping to bring stuff here. But I don't know.
The other side is, just to finish off on that one, in all fairness to them, is that they've announced that they're going to have to buy a new ship by 2030 costing 120 million, and they're going to have to fund it. So I suppose from a business perspective, they don't want to use taxpayers' money to fund the ship. They've got to make the money somehow to pay that 120 million for a new ship, which is, it's a going rate of a new ferry at the moment. So if we want that service, somehow we're going to have to pay for it, aren't we?
Well, if 120 million is expensive, how about the overspend at Manx Care that's on the way to 400 million every year without fail? I mean, is 120 million for a boat expensive when we're not attending to the overspend at Manx Care?
There are two different things, though. One is a government department. The Steam Packet is a company of which the government owns shares in and invested in. So they're not, they're a bit apples and pears. But I get the point where you're making about value. Go on then. Sorry.
Well, the apples and pears.
Go on.
Yeah. The apples and pears argument, I'm going to make that with you in a second, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, bring it on then. The dictatorship is what you wanted to talk about, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, you said a recent survey indicated that 1 in 5 Gen Z people are in favour of dictatorships.
Mm-hmm.
I think you said that yesterday.
Yes, it was a
Doesn't
Telegraph
that mean
report,
that 80%? Yeah, so that means that 80%, or 4 in 5 in the majority, weren't in favour then. If 1 in 5...
Well,
if 1 in 5 are for it, then 4 in 5 are against it. Then
that is true. It's 75% of it's for 4 and 5. About 80%. Sorry, yeah. So in terms of, you're right. I think the story was highlighted in the Telegraph. Was it was quite shocking that as many as 1 in 5 were in favour of it who were actually surveyed and live in a democratic society, and it was the rise in the view of more younger people compared to what their parents thought in previous years.
Okay, but then you mentioned about Donald Trump and getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're going to talk about a dictatorship, it's worth pointing out, just on Donald Trump's point of view, the Washington, D.C. zoning laws, including permits and planning approval, do not apply to any U.S. president due to exemptions flowing from the supremacy clauses. The National Environment Policy Act, or NEPA, only applies to federal agencies, and courts have now ruled that a U.S. president is not an agency and is therefore exempt. The Administrative Procedures Act explicitly exempts the president in the Act's own clauses, and the only one they're trying at the moment is the National Historic Preservation Act from Section 106, and it states this is only advisory with no formal legal powers. So if you're going to say that Donald Trump's kind of in the same conversation as dictatorship, and the system basically gives him this power, as did Joe Biden, as did Bush, as did Clinton, and all the other ones. But let's have a look at Tynwald. And the apples and pears thing we're going to talk about is the horse tram route.
Yep.
So Tynwald approved that in January 2017 to be fully reinstated back to the sea terminal after refurbishment of the promenade.
Yes.
So if Tynwald is being perhaps authoritarian, as you mentioned yesterday, then who usurped their power and will and undid the approved route, which is potentially going to cost millions of more pounds to remedy this, because the prom's been finished and it'll have to be ripped up again to get that through, and it's going to be more closures and fences up and all the rest of it.
In fairness, before we scaremonger, it won't have the prom ripped up and all fences. There is a green area that is to be dug out. That was left for it, and then there is the area of the patched paving by the War Memorial. Yes, but yeah, that's a very good question. Who is it that? I think the horse tram debacle highlights more than anything whether you're interested in heritage or not. It's basically who's in charge of our nation. Because if the Democratic Parliament ordered the department to do this and gave it the money, who's got the power behind the scenes to say no?
Well, is this as a dictator in the background, or is the system warped? I mean, normally the legislators decide what. So MHK said, we've got a vision, we want to do the prom. Mm-hmm. And then the executives, namely the civil servants like DOI or the highways or whoever, they decide how. But it seems that the executive branch, or what you like to call it, has decided what as well. So now we've got an accountability problem, because the MHKs have said, let's do this. The executives should go and do it, and they've turned around and said, we're not doing it, haven't they? So we've got a major problem here with the system.
I would possibly agree, yes. I mean, trying to get to the bottom of this, because you could look at the hoo-ha as to the de-scoping, and I said that in inverted commas, of the completion of the horse tram tracks, whether the Council of Ministers were aware of that. They made the decision on it, whether they used the powers of the Treasury Act in order to remove that without having to revert to Tynwald. But in terms of the management of the project and the funding of the project, well, there's two people we would invite on many times. We've mentioned this when Michelle Haywood was Minister, which is the Chief Exec of the department, Emily Curfey, and her deputy, Jeff Robinson, who was the Director of Highways. It was his project. But they don't want to talk to us. And if the Minister Crookall's listening, come
hang
talk.
On a minute.
Yeah.
Michelle Haywood said, "Not on my watch," was her exact words. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, who is it? Are they not wanting to come on, or is the DOI stopping them from coming on for whatever reason? And you look at DOI, they've demonstrated a preference for this kind of centralised, low consultation implementation. I mean, just look at how the 20-mile-an-hour blanket rollout, and it's low consultation. And then you've got other projects which is kind of going the same kind of way. Like my favourite subject, the proposed wind energy industrial estate at Eriestane. Low consultation, highly questionable financial assertions that don't stand up or even want to answer any scrutiny or questioning from the taxpayers who are going to pay for it. I mean, it's already double. It's more than double since they first mentioned it in the paper.
When does it become? When does it become an industrial estate from a wind farm? By the way, just out of curiosity.
Well, the word farm kind of gives you ideas of rolling green fields and cows. It's hardly a farm.
No, but it's not an industrial estate in fairness either. But that could be classed as scaremongering. They are universally acknowledged as being called wind farms. Whether you like it or loathe it, but for the correction of anyone listening further away, it's a wind farm. We're not building massive industrial estates like the kind of things you have at Snugborough or out at Hills Meadow.
You're going to have large amounts of concrete slabs. You're going to have large amounts of problems with water runoff, as Eddie's mentioned a lot of times in the past, especially as there's a lot of people in the Colby River area that might end up underwater one day, like Laxey, which, by the way, was a wall getting knocked down, which was another intervention that shouldn't have happened. But they're not even following their own rules and regulations. Like, for example, Wardell Armstrong. They conducted that one-year survey of Eriestane, never obtained a licence from DEFA for it. So why is the project still proceeding? I mean, there should be these processes going on. And the financial case for this wind farm is full of holes. I mean, it's literally Swiss cheese when you think that the amount of energy they say it's going to generate is 3 times more than anywhere else in the UK or anywhere else outside there, including Western Ireland. So you've got this disconnect of where is all the accountability? Where's all the transparency? It all seems to be that the system is, I don't know, maybe it's because there's 10% of the island are working at government and it's all becoming kind of authoritarian, as you said yesterday.
And the question I have, And a question I have for you, Julian, to finish off, because I've got a couple of people waiting on the phones,
Sure.
is that people always ask me this question. Have you decided, are you standing in September yet?
Still deliberating on that one. There's still time left.
Okay.
I keep getting people asking me, but yeah, it's an interesting one as to how much you get hamstrung with Official Secrets Act things when you go in there, and it's kind of handy to have your own freedom to be able to say and do what you want, because it is obvious that one or two of the members have kind of had their freedom to talk about things curtailed since they went in. So,
But the thing you would have though is the power to actually sort all the things that you complain about publicly. Because at the moment you haven't got the power. You've got the power to vote people in, but if you want to actually make a difference, surely if you're in there, you could then actually have the power. And it's almost the phrase of put your money where your mouth is, isn't it?
Well, that's true, except of course that you've got the MLCs. They're still going to be in there because they have their elections or appointments, should I say?
Yep.
Later than so. There's going to be at least a couple of years before you're going to make any meaningful progress, really, because if you've got people embedded in the MLCs that are diametrically opposed to what you want to do, and also you've got to go en bloc into the MHKs to make a difference, because it seems, when it comes to things like the Climate Change Act, that it's almost a universal, well, yeah, we'll do that, despite everything that's going on with Orsted's share price in the floor, all the wind farms getting cancelled.
But come on, Julian, surely these are excuses. If you want to get in there and you want to shake it up, surely that's it. It's a case of get in there and do the shaking up. Okay, yes, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be hard, but, if you want to do it, get in there and basically, do some saber rattling on the inside, surely.
Well, this is what's going on in the background as to how that's done strategically, because you can't just willy-nilly just go in and do stuff like that. But there are plans afoot. So
okay, I shall watch this space. Julian, as always, it's great to debate with you, and speak to you soon. Take care.
Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye.
Always lovely to have a debate with Julian there. Do give me a call if you either agree or disagree with a number of his comments there. 66 13 68. One thing, I did get sent this story by Kelly. Thank you very much, Kelly. This was a letter in the Telegraph that I think is very interesting. And it might have some reference to the Isle of Man as well. It might have some bearing on the Isle of Man. It says, Sir, Ed Miliband's relentless pursuit of net zero is sending the economy into freefall, but his planned tax on ferry fares is the final straw. This was announced on the 2nd of February. It says, the Isle of Wight is totally dependent on old, unreliable ships, which charge one of the highest rates per mile in the world. His tax could add a further £30 to cross-Solent travel. Another own goal from this appalling government, this is in the UK, I should add, in its destructive war on Britain's businesses and economy. That's from, it was a letter from someone called Bob in Hampshire. So the question is, is this UK taxation going to affect the Isle of Man as well? Are we going to have to pay a tax for our ferries going into Liverpool and Heysham? And is that going to be an extra burden on us? Now, there is talk online that there's a possible dispensation for Scotland. Okay, I'm not sure whether that's just to keep voters happy above the border or not. But will the Isle of Man be included in this? That's a very good question. So thank you, Kelly, for that. And if anyone has an answer or wants to follow that up, please do give us a call and let us know. 66 13 68, and we'll get onto that as well. So let's go to the lines. Bonzo's on. Hello, Bonzo. Do you want to talk about the steam packet as well?
Sorry, I just dozed off there after having to do another sort of 10 minutes of on repeat of the usual litany.
I feel in fairness to defend all the different characters on the Mannin line. There's pots and kettles here, Bonzo, but go on.
Hey, hang on a minute. No. Right, to go to your last question first.
Yes.
Right. Taxes on ferries.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably going to be on UK flagged.
Right.
So obviously the Isle of Man steam packet, the Manx flagged, probably exempt. There would be a dispensation, I should think, for Scotland because of obviously the Orkney ferries and the huge, Calmac ferry operation, in the Western Isles.
Yes.
So there'd probably be a dispensation for that. I dare say Northern Ireland would then start to kick up a fuss, as with the Welsh. You know, why? Yes, but our ferries go to Ireland. You know, why are you stuffing our ferry ports and that? So I can foresee unforeseeable problems with this minister.
Well, the other issue with that one is if it's only purely for British flagged vessels, changing the flag of a vessel is comparatively simple in the maritime world. All they're going to do is do the UK out of shipping registries because everyone will flag them somewhere else. Because I remember the years when the King Orry here, which was the flagship of the fleet, was registered in Nassau in the Bahamas. I think the Sea Cats were as well for a while. Obviously, the vessels are now registered here in Douglas. But surely that's not going to actually have any benefit for net zero if it's purely UK flagged.
I'll have to have a look at this proposed legislation and have a parse through it and see what gives. Going back,
yes,
to the steam packet. Going back, gosh, it seems so long ago now. I find myself agreeing with Julian.
Wow, crikey! Put that in the diary. Go on then. On which bit?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm sorry. The pain is quite excruciating. I find myself agreeing with him, or should I say, he's agreeing with me, in that the steam packet, it has to operate in its current way, as you rightly point out, as a company. You know, it is a private limited company, but with somebody who owns all the shares. That entity that owns all the shares being the Isle of Man Treasury.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has to maximise its return to shareholders. It's legally obliged to do so.
Yes.
Which is great for Treasury, because Treasury can use it as a cash cow in order to then use it to put sticking plasters on various gaps in the budget.
Although at the moment, obviously, that they've invested all this money in the steam packet. They bought out its original loan to the Banco Spirito, and also they've loaned it the money for the Manxman. So at the moment, I'd imagine the steam packet is, without having the figures in front of me, is currently paying off all those loans. I don't think the Treasury is benefiting yet from the profits of the company.
Well, in cash flow terms, they probably are. But certainly... when it comes to that, of course, that stops it operating. Economic and social interest. So what really should happen is that the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company should, like Bushiner, be brought into public ownership so that it can actually be used as an engine for economic and social progress. Because absolutely key to doing anything with this island is the ability for people and goods and services to move to and from the island.
Do you necessarily think, Bonzo, bearing in mind that the nationalisation, and I know that's a very much more of a socialist policy, but nationalisation, do you really think that necessarily makes it better? Because one of the arguments I've heard about how they're running this current survey it's just finished yesterday about the new vessel, and the message that seems to be coming across through all the spin is you're not going to get a fast craft, and it's hidden under all the, we've got to comply with new legislation and everything else, whereas there are fast crafts that comply, they just don't want to spend the money, and fast crafts are expensive. But when the company was taken over by Sea Containers and run as a business, what built the Liverpool business and increased passenger numbers exponentially was the introduction of fast crafts. So there is an element that if you're, people in government, the criticism is that they've never been in business, they don't understand the world of business because they've got that security of the fact that it doesn't really matter if I mess up, it's taxpayers' money, we can carry on and we stay in our jobs, or they get moved sideways, upwards, downwards, or whatever. Is that surely operating it as an arm's length business means that you actually have a successful business there that then can feed into Treasury, rather than civil servants running something without the the motivation to actually earn a profit.
Yes, but the steam packet is a monopoly. Mm-hmm. It is a government licensed monopoly. So the idea of competition, I think, is a a bit of an issue. Also, that economic model of sort of 20, 25 years ago about operating fast craft, well, that's long since evaporated. So what you need is essentially a monohull that can do 25 knots and which can get through most forms of weather.
28 if you want to keep it under. If you want to keep it under 3 hours, it needs to be a 28 to 30 knotter, and that is still a fast craft. Not necessarily talking the catamaran fast crafts. Although the catamaran fast crafts that are now available are solar powered and battery powered.
Yeah. I mean, but then again, we're talking about 28 knots. The Ben McCree of 1908. One of the little Cunardas used to do 28 knots.
Yeah, but it was coal powered. I mean, this is another thing. That if you want to chuck out loads of toxic coal smoke into the air, yes, you can do it. But if you want to have a vessel that's faster, it's gonna be either cost you more in fuel, or it's going to be designed differently. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, fast, good, and cheap. You can have two. You can have two out of the three, but not all.
Exactly.
Yeah, but in the broader sense, if you want to run an economy, if you want to run a society, a state on an island, the key thing is about people and goods and stuff being able to get on and off it, and for the island itself to have some form of control on that. So the steam packet is, it is both an economic and social lifeline. So it should be operated as such. Now, I don't know of any other lifeline services that are operated on a strictly commercial basis.
I think
I don't think this should be either.
I think it comes down to that point I made earlier, Bonzo, just to finish up, that that people in government need to look at something as either, has this got community benefit, which means it's not necessarily going to be a good return on investment directly on the balance sheet, or are you just looking at it as a cash cow bringing money in? Now, there are arguments on both sides, and I suppose it depends on who makes that decision. And obviously, within the Steam Packet board now, you've got an ex-member of the Treasury board, Bill Shimon, so he will have seen both sides of it. So the question is, who makes that decision as to whether it should be a community service and have community benefit? Because your price of goods would go down, your tourism would go up if it became an incredibly cheap operator, but you might have to subsidise it. Or the other side of it is the government needs money to offer services, so it's going to get money from wherever it can, including a profitable ferry company.
Well, yes, it could also get money by actually implementing a proper progressive taxation policy where the taxes went on the shoulders of that were broadest and could pay the most, instead of the other way round as we have it.
However, that is another topic, and we could be on there forever.
That is another topic, but that's that's all interlinked, and so this will be, along with issues of tax, of course, one of the key things I think for people to consider in the election.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that one, Bonzo. And I've let you have the same amount of time as Julian, so I'm going to put that down in the note that this was the day that the two of you agreed slightly on something. There we go. You can go and have a lie down now.
Yes, I shall go and have a lie down now. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Bonzo. Lovely to speak to Bonzo there, and always great to debate with him. If you agree or disagree on any of these topics, or you want to start up a topic yourself, please do give me a call, 66 13 68. And let's have a look. I'm trying to go through some of your messages here. Thank you very much to... who's that texter who's just come in, who says that thank you for pulling up Julian on the industrial estate comment. He's a very clever fellow, but he did need to be pulled up on that one. Well, there we go. Thank you very much. Oh, interesting. Thank you very much to Nicola, who's been on when it comes to that tax on UK ferries. Bonzo thought he said it was only going to be on UK registered vessels. Nicola's confirmed to me, no, it's not on UK vessels only. I couldn't see the point of it only being on UK registered vessels, because it wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't dissuade vessels. It wouldn't raise money. People would just register them somewhere else. So it would be a lose-lose situation. So thank you, Nicola, for confirming that. So no, that tax is going to be on various different vessels. And the question is, will it affect vessels to and from the Isle of Man, from Liverpool and Heysham? Well, we don't know. We will find out. But thank you, Nicola, for confirming that one for me. Let's have a poll, says Jez. Julian to replace Alf Cannon as Chief Minister. You can have a poll if you want. I'm not. Well, there is one in September. Maybe join in on that one. That would be a bit of fun. Let's have a look at a few more of your messages coming in. Hi, Alex. The steam packet was owned by 3 identities when Mr. Cannon, the Treasury Minister, bought it. On behalf of the nation, he didn't buy it himself. A hedge fund company, the 2 parts of the Portuguese Banco Bank, and it says that Andrew says that the ministers at the time, Harmer, Cannon, and Quayle, didn't have a clue. This was brought to the attention of Tynwald by Miss Edge when they wanted approval by the bankrupt company. If I can have more details there, because which bankrupt company are we talking about here, Andrew? The steam packet originally was bought by the Sea Containers Group, and then it was sold to the Montague Private Equity, which effectively is like management buyout. Then it was sold to Macquarie in Australia, and eventually it went to the Banco Espirito, I think it is, in a Portuguese bank before it was effectively bought out by the Isle of Man government when Mr. Cannon was Treasury Minister. So, that was the sort of the tale of how it all went, but it got lumbered with quite a bit of debt. I think it was sold originally for 120 million to the Montague Private Equity, and then was sold on to Macquarie for circa 240 million as a company, with a large amount of that value being obviously in the use agreement that the steam packet had with the government that gave it that kind of monopoly usage over the government's link span. Kay has been on saying, healthcare. I was told my medication needs to be reviewed, but the doctor has said he can make a referral and it will still be 2 years before I can get an appointment. Sorry to hear that, Kay. More about healthcare issues. Dave's been on. I have been waiting over 4 years after a misdiagnosis. Sorry about that, Dave. And Gaz says, Manx Care have been given more funding and has more staff, yet we're told that waiting lists have grown, includes those reduced by Synaptic. What would be more meaningful is to be told how many treatments have actually been carried out. Thank you very much for that. We've got quite a message here from Richard regarding Manx Care. I'll do this before I go and quickly have a mouthful of tea. He says, I was one of the 17,000 odd people, according to Manx Care's annual report, who are waiting ages for a first consultation appointment at Nobles. So it's good to see, as of today, the government's website only showing 17,120. It was up at 17,800 odd. You'll see on September the 18th, 2023, those on the list, same list, was 12,300, an incredible figure when the year before Tynwald had voted to give Manx Care £18 million for the waiting list, which had grown to 26 million when Manx Care bought in Synaptics to reduce the list. So how does it now grow by over 5,000 in a couple of years since? Worse still, you'll see on the 25th of October 2018, 18 months before Manx Care arrived and under the old DHSC hospital management, Julie Edge said in Tynwald that it was unacceptable to have 7,000 on the waiting list as it was then. Clearly the old DHSC spending over 100 million less, adjusted for inflation and pay rises, the year before Manx Care. That's Richard's message. Thank you, Richard. Well, we've done some fact-checking on this. Thank you to my producer, Chris, on this one. And, you're correct. It is true that DHSC secured 18.3 million in 2022 to tackle waiting lists. Where it does need accuracy is on the £26 million claim. That figure relates to wider overspend forecasts, not just the waiting list programme, even though outside partners were brought in to boost capacity. The government points to higher demand, staffing shortages, an ageing population and post-COVID backlog, and critics say its spending's up, but the results haven't followed. Either way, for patients, the headline is simple. More people are now waiting than years ago. So thank you very much, Richard, for that one. Any comments on the waiting list at Nobles? Well, do feel you can get in touch. 66 13 68. We'll have a chat to Juan after this.
Tonight on Manx Radio, we launch a brand new series in which we'll be speaking to island residents who have, shall we say, unconventional jobs. We'll be taking a closer look at what their work entails. First up is Hannah Phillips. She's the community ranger for the Manx Wildlife Trust. I headed out with her for the day, down north to Ramsey and across to Onken to get a taste of some of the community projects that she leads. That is the first episode of A Day in the Life of, broadcast as an Island Life programme this evening at 5:30 right here on Manx Radio, with a longer edition available as a podcast after broadcast.
EVF, fueling the island and fueling you. With a great range of fresh foods and everyday essentials at our filling stations. And always great offers too. Mannin Fuels.
At Pagode Cattery, we've been caring for animals for over 50 years. As a cattery, we care for our customers' cats and treat them as our own. Visit pagode.com or call 321 989.
One architectural design company has particular expertise in achieving planning approval for a wide variety of projects, from landmark buildings to spectacular homes. Talk to the experts at Ellis Brown and get your project off the ground. For excellence in design, search Ellis Brown.
For a trustworthy removal and storage solution, contact Dave's Removals and Storage, offering man and van removals, clearances and long or short-term storage with pick-up and drop-off service. Call 258 766 or find Dave's Removals and Storage on Facebook.
Stock arriving weekly at Ramsey Garden Centre. Discover potted spring bulbs, summer bulbs, seed potatoes, onion and garlic sets, wildflower seeds, sweet pea, microgreens, plantable biodegradable pots and propagation essentials. Grow smarter, greener, season after season with Ramsey Garden Centre.
Thinking about your future? Curious about a career in construction? Then come along to Construction Isle of Man's Drop-In Careers Fair at the Roundhouse in Braddon on Thursday the 12th of February between 3 and 7 p.m. Whether you're into design, problem solving, tech or hands-on work, opportunities in the construction sector are wide and varied. And this is a great chance to see what's on offer, including apprenticeships and training. Talk to friendly professionals at this free informal event, from plumbers and electricians to architects and project managers. You can always take a trade with you, so come and explore your options in construction at the Construction Isle of Man Careers Fair, supported by your nation station, Manx Radio.
Manx Radio's Man in Line, 20 to 1, open line through till 1 o'clock. As always, everyone's now beginning to call towards the end of the show. Just a reminder, by the way, if you're parked in the bottleneck car park looking at our webcams down there, you might want to move your car, okay? Looking at the coastal overtopping at the moment, it doesn't look pretty down there. And speaking of looking pretty, is Dewan. Hello, Dewan.
Good day, Alex. It's Pearl's husband here from Australia.
I don't believe a word of it. What would you like to talk about, Dewan?
It's the third of the four horsemen.
Yes.
Yeah. Just to your guy yesterday about Manx Radio paying my phone bill. It's just a conspiracy. We don't do conspiracies. We only do facts. So it's I pay my own.
I think that some people might disagree and challenge that last line, but yes, you do pay your own phone bill. So we're very appreciative of that. Now I've got quite a few people waiting, Dewan. So what should we get to?
Yeah, okay, yeah. And well, you stole my thunder, actually, Alex. You read out what I was actually going to put on.
Oh, sorry.
Which was about the steam packet and the extra charges that's been put on the Isle of Wight ferries. I just want to connect it to something about 4 years ago when I had this discussion with UK government about the Shenzhen zone. This was like when travelling with COVID. And anyone that was outside the Shenzhen zone didn't have to have the COVID vaccinations. But I was told if the wheels off the plane dropped down in the UK, you were classed as being in the UK, as the Isle of Man wasn't in the Shenzhen zone. Right. I just want to attach that now onto this steam packet thing. From my information that I have been told, yes, the Isle of Man will be implicated in these charges. The question now is, what is this government doing about that? But that is, I've been told from inside source in government that it is applicable to the Isle of Man ferries.
I can't imagine that it wouldn't be, because in the same way whether you fly to anywhere or when you as soon as you arrive at an airport, they charge you for whatever landing charges or whatever taxes and fees, and it's the same with ports. You get charged harbour fees. So I can't imagine that if they're going to put a tax on ferries arriving in the UK, that's not going to be the case. Now, of course, this is currently being proposed. It's not actually in legislation yet, is it? So we've got time to challenge it.
Indeed, yeah, and that goes kind of along with that. I put a point on a politics page the other day with reference to the Labour Party who are out and about campaigning for the next election. And my point to them was, I put 6 bullet point questions to them of how aligned they were to the Labour government and in the UK. I mean, they came back to me and told me the history of the Labour Party, which I didn't really want to know, but already knew anyway. But I've avoided my point.
A little bit of education for you, Dewan. There we go.
Yes, yeah. Well, we don't want historical. We want what's happening now, and how aligned are you to what's going on in the UK. And I have to say, I mean, I'm the one that sits in the front row in their face and asks them all the awkward questions, along with Julian and a few others at these conferences. But I have to say, in defence of Brian Thompson, who's not really very public image person, to be fair, you'll probably know you're a steam packet man or ex-steam packet man, but I've got to give him credit. He sat down with me for about 20 minutes at the government conference 2 years ago and talked with me about the steam packet. So, in fairness to Brian,
I've always found him actually very, very pleasant to deal with. I do feel sorry for him that every PR photo seems to have him without smiling, because when he smiles, he looks a very cheerful bloke. But they do always seem to issue photos with him when he's not smiling. So I don't think that does him any favours.
He's got that,
but he's a very pleasant bloke.
Scottish look, isn't it? It's that gritty Scottish look.
You can argue that with him.
To say, probably not. I've got to say, just on a finishing note, it is a momentous day today, Alex. I do kind of agree with Bonzo on a few of his points. So put that flag up on the top of the mast there. And the question must be asked is, the steam packet was paid for with taxpayers' money. Mm-hmm. Was it paid for the use and the good of the Isle of Man people, or was it the big blue sailing piggy bank still and just purely making profit? That's the question that has to be asked, because like everything that government has, it has no money except ours.
But I can sort of try and clarify your answer there. That if it's the good of the Isle of Man people, yes, that would be a case of that. It offers community benefit, economic benefit, but also if it's to make more money and more profits, well, as it's wholly owned by the Isle of Man government, those profits go back into a dividend to the shareholders' treasury, which pays for our services. So you could argue that on both sides of it, it's for the good of the Isle of Man people, surely.
Maybe so, but again, we've got this play with words. I mean, you used it before, and the difference between the steam packet and something that Julian referred to. And again, that's a little bit of social programming. Back to what Julian said about wind farms and industrial estates. Mm-hmm. Just social programming with words, Alex.
Well, it's not. I mean, the money will come in from the steam packet and would go to Treasury, which pays for services that are provided for us. It doesn't go anywhere else. It's got the only shareholder. If it was, a partial shareholder and, 50% of the money was owned by, I don't know, some massive corporation and they were taking half the profits, yeah, you could understand. But the profits will go back to the Isle of Man. So either way, the company itself is wholly owned by the Isle of Man. So the money will go back into the Isle of Man. It's not going to go anywhere else.
The question is on that, are we paying for that with the excessive fares that we're paying? This is the thing where, I mean, you're putting the money in, but is that just a taxation for the money to be used in other places, rather than we're getting a reasonably priced fare off the island? I think this refers more to vehicle traffic than passenger traffic, in fairness, because the vehicle traffic is very excessive, and that's because that's the only way that we can get that on and off the island. Okay. Passengers have a choice of going by air or by boat.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to cut you off, June, because I've got a ton of people still on the lines. I've got about 5 minutes left. But as always, great to speak to you. Cheers, boy. Lovely to speak to June there. And yeah, the three of them all agree on one day. Who knows? Crikey, I've become a peacemaker in 4 days on Mannin line. Paul's been waiting patiently. Hello, Paul. Let's talk tramlines and prom, shall we?
Hello, yes. I'll let you know, I'm an ex-civil servant and worked in the DOI for 15 years before I retired. But the tramline business, is it Claire Barber, the just departed minister of the DOI?
It's Michelle Haywood, not Claire Barber.
Michelle Haywood was on the programme 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she came out with a statement that I found absolutely, utterly astounding. It's fantastic political speech, when she was talking about the promenade and the money, basically she said that project didn't come in over budget, we just didn't do all the work.
So effectively, effectively, because I can see where you're going with this. I think it was 25 million was the prom. So instead of going over budget like we did with other projects, like the Liverpool Ferry Terminal, we decided to hack the stuff out of it that obviously someone somewhere didn't like, and then they could claim it came in on budget.
Value engineering, they used to call it.
That's the phrase, value engineering.
Yes.
So how would you view it then?
How would I view it? Basically, they managed. They didn't get the budget right in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
They set off. The cost increased because they found various underground things that they weren't aware of that they had to deal with. And when the money ran out, they went back to Treasury, and Treasury said, "No, you're not. We're not giving you any more. We haven't got it. Go away and finish what you've got with what you've got."
So
the only way they could balance the books was to take the tram lines out.
So who do you think is responsible, and what do you think should now happen?
The responsibility would probably lie with what used to be the Capital Projects Unit that sat inside Treasury, and they controlled the pink book expenditure on capital projects, and it would be them and the bean counters within Treasury that decided there's no more money.
Well, from a political point of view, you see, the people who were responsible in Treasury at the time were Alf Cannon, who is now, he was Treasury Minister, he's now Chief Minister, Bill Henderson, who is no longer an MLC, and also Bill Shimmons, who was the political member as an MHK, and he's now, of course, no longer an MHK and a director of the steam packet. So all the people who were in Treasury politically at that time are no longer there.
But you just pointed out who were responsible.
Yeah, no, that's good. What would you suggest should happen now? Because in terms of the Parliament's told them, they've given them the money to do something and explicitly told them what they wanted, and it's not been done. So democratically, the Parliament's just been ignored.
So, well, the Parliament, the MHKs should tell Treasury to set that money aside in the next financial year or the financial year after that and get the job finished. Okay.
Thank you very much for your insight there, Paul. I really appreciate it. Thanks very much for calling.
No problem.
Cheers. Lovely to talk to Paul there, with an insight, obviously being an ex-DOI member. He's been waiting patiently. I've got about 2 minutes left. Quirky, sorry. Hello, how are you? Oh, it's David Quirk again. What is it with his phone that doesn't work? I'm going to try once more. It's something about David Quirk. Quirky, are you there? No. I don't know what it is. It seems to be the David Quirk phone. I'm going to take a note of the time. 12:52 and 50 seconds. So, Mr. Quirk, finally? No. I'm sorry, David, if you're listening. There's something technically with his phone, because it always is the one that seems to upset things. I will get my white-hot team of engineers onto that, David, and we'll find out. I'll even mark down the time so they know exactly when to work it all out. So, I'll finish up with a few of your messages. Roy B. Says that Manx Care is set up to employ foreign workers and with excellent wages to bring in the cultural diversity quotas into reality, and we're paying the price with our health and our money. Well, Roy, we've done a bit of research on this one. Manx Care wasn't set up to meet cultural diversity quotas. Being completely honest, that's rubbish. It was created to run health and care services. It recruits overseas mainly because there aren't simply enough local staff to fill key roles. To be honest, if you go up there and find the number of qualified staff required to run a health service, you're not going to find them on the Isle of Man. There are no official diversity targets driving recruitment. Doctors, nurses, carers and specialists are hired to fill vacancies so services don't collapse. On pay, Manx Care generally follows national pay frameworks to attract staff in a global market. It looks high on paper, but that's because healthcare workers are in short supply everywhere. So I'm sorry to dispel your myth there, Roy, but that was our fact check on that. Thank you very much to my producer, Chris, on that one. Well, we've come to the end of our time together, as always. David says, regarding the steam packet charge increase, that means it goes adding on to the cost of living. Well, Yes, I suppose it does. Gaz says, the only conclusion I can draw from the long waiting list is that few treatments are being done, so perhaps Manx Care should have their budget and staff reduced with the resulting money spent again on Synaptic. But as always, where do you want the cuts to be? Someone's got to make that decision, because as soon as you cut something, everyone goes, no, you should get rid of that. Thank you very much to Rich, who says the duty for ferry travel will be no different from air passenger duty in the UK. Regardless of where the plane's going, you still have to pay. But when our government sees millions being raised, they'll charge exactly the same. Thank you for your comments. I'll see you again tomorrow at midday. Beth Espy's up next with 1 to 3. Thanks to Chris on the phones.